What is going on, everybody? Today I will be previewing the 2024 college football schedule for James Madison. I will go through every game on their schedule and I will predict which games on the schedule I think they will win, and I will also predict which games on the schedule I think they will lose. But before we preview their schedule, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel, because we upload daily college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing, and also consider joining my Discord server down in the description below. But without further ado, let's get into the video. James Madison is coming off an 11-2 season, but heading into 2024 there will be some question marks for this team now that they lost their head coach Curt Cignetti and they lose their quarterback Jordan McLeod and their top running back and their top receiver. Overall, there is a bunch of talent that they will be losing, and this James Madison team actually ranks 126 in the country for returning production, which is actually in the bottom 10 of the country. Head coach Bob Chesney will take over for this James Madison program, and the good news is that he has been a very successful coach, and he's been doing this for a while now. This will be his first time coaching at the FBS level, so we'll see what he can do for this James Madison team, but I think Bob Chesney will help carry the momentum that James Madison has heading into next season, and they should be a top contender for the Sun Belt Conference Championship now that they are actually eligible to play in the conference championship game. James Madison lost a lot of talent, but they have done a really good job of picking up players in the transfer portal. They landed 2 potential stars at running back, and they did pick up some receivers and a bunch of impact players on defense. I do not know if James Madison will be as good as they were last season, but anyways, let's get into predicting their schedule. And their first game of the season is on the road against Charlotte. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a closer game just because of the defense of Charlotte. It actually kept them in a lot of games last season, but I still think Charlotte is a terrible team. At least they were last season. But what makes this team interesting is that they have done very good in the transfer portal. And yes, Charlotte has a lot of work to do, but last season was Biff Pogge's first season coaching at Charlotte, and I think this team will get better. And I would not be surprised to see this team compete for a bowl game spot next season just because of how much talent this team has acquired in the transfer portal, definitely on the offensive side. But I still do have James Madison winning this game, and I have James Madison moving to 1-0 in the season. The next game for James Madison is at home against FCS Gardner-Webb. This is the cupcake game on the schedule for James Madison. Gardner-Webb played 2 FBS teams last season, and they lost by a lot in both of those games. So James Madison should be able to beat this Gardner-Webb team by a lot, and this is a mismatch game, so I definitely have James Madison winning this game and moving to 2-0 on the season. The next game for James Madison is on the road against North Carolina. I don't expect North Carolina to be a great team next season. They rank 127th in returning production, which is actually right below James Madison. Mack Brown had a fantastic career as a head coach, but if I am being honest, I think this North Carolina team is at the end of the road and they're heading downhill. The defense is just too bad, and losing Drake May will hurt. I know they brought in Max Johnson at quarterback and a couple decent additions in the transfer portal, but I don't expect this team to be a top contender for the ACC without Drake May. This is a big chance for James Madison to upset North Carolina on the road. And yes, I do think North Carolina is heading downhill, but I still think they will be a solid team and probably win 6 to 8 games. And I actually do have James Madison losing this game on the road to North Carolina. It should be a close game, but I don't think James Madison will have enough talent to beat a solid Power 5 team on the road. So I do have James Madison losing a closer game and moving to 2-1 on the season. Last season, James Madison only beat Virginia by 1 point, and North Carolina should be better than that Virginia team was. But the next game for James Madison is at home against Ball State. I honestly forgot Ball State was a team, and that is how irrelevant this team has been. They aren't a terrible team like a Kent State, but they are a very below average group of 5 team, and I don't hear anybody talk about this Ball State team, and that's why they are so forgettable. The MAC has a lot of forgettable teams in it, and Ball State is a pretty bad team. They went 4-8 last season, and I do think James Madison has a big advantage in this game, and I don't see any upset happening in this game, so I have James Madison winning this game and moving to 3-1 on the season. The next game for James Madison is on the road against App State. I am actually really high on this App State team heading into 2024. They could be a potential sleeper team to make the playoffs out of the group of 5. They do return 68% of production, which is actually top 33 in the country. They kept all of their coaching staff, and they do return their starting quarterback. Joey Aguilera started the last season as a backup, but he turned it up for this team after earning the starting position, and he could be a potential breakout player of 2024. App State went 9-5 last season, and they made the Sun Belt Championship game, in which they lost by 20 plus points, but all 4 of their other losses were 1-possession losses. And once App State got it figured out, they beat James Madison and went on a 5-game win streak to finish the regular season. App State is always a consistently good team, and next season will be an even better season for App State in my opinion. and I think they will beat James Madison again, definitely since they will have this game at home. So I have James Madison losing a tough road game and moving to 3-2 on the season. The next game for James Madison is on the road against Georgia Southern, and this will be another tough away game for James Madison. I don't necessarily think Georgia Southern will be better than James Madison, but I do expect this to be a challenging game for James Madison, and it could be a potential upset. Georgia Southern went 6-7 last season, and they could definitely take a step up next season with Clay Helton leading the way for Georgia Southern. I do expect Georgia Southern to make a bowl game again next season, but the reason I think James Madison will lose this game is because of the fact that Georgia Southern only lost one home game last season despite having 7 losses. They play well at home, and I think Georgia Southern is a solid team, so I have James Madison dropping this game and moving to 3-3 on the season. Next season will be a bit of a challenging season for James Madison, and I think they will slip up against a team that is worse than them, and playing on the road against Georgia Southern will be difficult. The next game for James Madison is at home against Coastal Carolina. I expect Coastal Carolina to take a step down next season without Grayson McCall. They rank 114th in the country for returning production, and they lost a bunch of talent on both sides of the ball. I don't think they really made a big impact in the transfer portal either. I expect James Madison to win this game at home, and I have James Madison moving to 4-3 on the season. The next game for James Madison is at home against Georgia State. Georgia State lost their head coach Sean Elliott, and they rank 131st in the country for returning production. Georgia State brought in some decent transfer portal players, and they also brought in Zach Gibson at quarterback, so we'll see what he can do. But similar to Coastal Carolina, there's a lot of questions on this Georgia State team. I do still think Georgia State will be solid because of the transfer portal additions, but I do think James Madison wins this game, and I have James Madison moving to 5-3 on the season. The next game for James Madison is at home against Marshall. I was actually very 50-50 on this game. I think Marshall could be a top contender for the Sun Belt Conference. They brought in 22 transfers, and they brought in a bunch of playmakers. And they also brought in Braylon Braxton at quarterback, who could be a great fit for this Marshall team. He's a good runner, but he needs to become more of an accurate passer, but he could definitely get the job done for Marshall. But overall, this Marshall team will be good. They didn't lose a bunch of talent like some of the other teams in the Sun Belt have. Like I said, I'm 50-50 on this game, but since James Madison lost to App State, I do think they will get their revenge and beat Marshall at home to get themselves a hard-fought win on the season. So I have James Madison moving to 6-3 on the season. The next game for James Madison is at home against Southern Miss. Southern Miss actually got transfer quarterback Tate Rodmaker from Florida State, and they picked up some other top playmakers from other Power 4 schools. Southern Miss could be a solid team next season, but they went 3-9 last season, and even if they take a step up, I think they will lose to James Madison. So I have James Madison winning this game and move it to 7-3 on the season. Southern Miss is a team to keep an eye on because they could be a lot better, but they went 3-9 last season, so I do not expect them to be a top contender for the Sun Belt Conference Championship in 2024, but we will see what happens. But the next game for James Madison is on the road against Old Dominion. This could be a potential trap game for James Madison. They struggled against this team last season, and playing on the road against a feisty team is never fun. But I don't expect Old Dominion to be great. They lost a lot of talent to the transfer portal, and they only went 6-7 last season. I know they returned a bunch of offensive production, but the defense will be a concern. And they are a similar team to Georgia Southern. They won't be bad, but they will just be average, maybe a little bit better than average. And I don't see James Madison losing to Old Dominion because I already had them losing to Georgia Southern. So I have James Madison moving to 6-3 on the season with the win against Old Dominion on the road. And the last game of the season for James Madison will be on the road against the greatest team in college football, UL Monroe. UL Monroe went 2-10 last season, and they didn't win a single conference game. This team actually has potential to go 0-12 or 1-11 next season with the schedule. UL Monroe is a terrible team, and I don't expect much from them in 2024, so I have James Madison winning this game pretty easily, and I have James Madison finishing the season with a 6-2 conference record and a 9-3 overall record. I do think 9-3 is a realistic prediction for this team in 2024. I expect them to be a bit worse without their top playmakers on both sides of the ball, and they really did take a big hit losing their head coach, but I am still predicting a good season for James Madison because I still think they will have a very talented roster. But you guys let me know how many games you think James Madison will win in 2024 down in the comments below. But that is going to do it for the video, guys. Let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel because we upload daily college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. And also consider joining my Discord server down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.